First of all, about the topic of the talk out here, 50 Shades of Orange. Trust me, this has nothing to do with the book. That was just, a gimmick to lure you guys into the room, because I know half of you would have left otherwise. The 50 Shades I wanted to talk about were, in the life of a startup, you go through, various phases, and you see a lot of colors of everything in yourself, in the team, in the external world, with investors, with stakeholders, with customers, partners. And I wanted to share some of those stories with all of you. Obviously, you all love, 50 slide decks with 10 bullet points on each slide with, 7 font size, right? So that's exactly what I have for you. No, that's just a joke. So I have just 5 slides. I know I can't share all the 50 learnings here, but I thought I'll just share 5 of them, the most important ones. So let's start this. The first thing is about inception. I know a lot of you in this room are entrepreneurs, people who actually want to start their own companies. I think this mic is working now. Great. So for those of you who want to start, I have just one piece of advice, that I keep hearing that, I'm waiting for this to happen, that to happen. I'm waiting for clearing off my liabilities. I need to get to this salary level. I need this much of bank balance. So when I started the company, my balance sheet was looking like 10 lakh rupees of loan, 5 lakh rupees in my bank account. And the day when I started, I really didn't know what I was going to do. So I didn't have the idea wasn't there. If you show the balance sheet to a banker, he'll throw you out of the room. And if you ask anybody why you're doing this, the person wouldn't have any clear answer, except that I've had enough of my corporate life, and I really want to do something that I can call my own. And the biggest realization was really that if you feel ever in your lifetime that the skills and talent that you have are being tremendously underutilized in your current job, you can do 2 things. One, you can, have coffee or chai with your colleagues and crib about it. Or 2, you can actually leave the job, say that you're resigning, and think about starting something of your own. So I chose the second option. And I still remember, like one fine day I went to office and I told my boss, this was after, I'd gone through business school, and I came back to India. I joined a company here. I was working closely with the CEO, and we were doing business development. And one fine day in the morning, I just went to him and said, I'm not coming to work from next week. And he was like, what happened? You've been doing a great job, etc., etc. I said, no, I'm just not feeling happy about it. I feel I'm tremendously underutilizing my potential. So he was giving me a blank face. I didn't really get what I meant. But I just, moved out and took up an apartment in Gurgaon. And I call up my co-founders. And I tell them that, look, we've been talking about doing something sometime later in life, starting our own company, etc. The time is now. The time is up. I think I can't be more bored with what I've been doing. And maybe, with all the skills that we have in the domain that we've been working, we can build something big, right? So I don't know how and why. And at that time, perhaps it was just because they were as frustrated with their jobs, but my co-founders also left their jobs and joined me. So one of them who's still with me, Rajneesh and I started this company in 2006 in our apartment in Gurgaon. And that's a photograph from then. So we just had, one dining table. We would get up, brush our teeth, sit on computers, and sometime around 4 o'clock in the morning, we would go back and sleep in our rooms, right? And this is what we did for like 5 months or 6 months while we were building, what we thought was the next big thing. And, that's how companies begin. It should start with passion. It should just be that the point when you realize that, you're sitting in the loo and all you can think about is the next idea that you want to build, or you're taking a shower and the only thing going in your mind is something that you're working on. I think for me, that's the only thing you need to check before you start your company. Everything else doesn't matter. The money will come, some miracles will happen, and you'll get to where you want to. And in this case, the miracles, so my parents gave me some money. They thought I was crazy, but they said, okay, you need to rent out this apartment, so we'll pay the rent. And some of my friends from INSEAD, for whom, I used to help them with their class notes and all, actually loaned me some money and said, we trust you, not the kind of guy who'll run away with our money, so, take it. And anyway, they earn like $200,000 a year, so they didn't care about 10,000. And that's how we started, right? So it doesn't take a lot. It just takes some conviction and the fact that you've had enough. And we didn't have an idea. So the only thing we knew was we worked in the travel industry. We understand technology very well. We've been technologists all our life. We should do something on the intersection of both. What do? We had no clue, right? So we started figuring it out. Market research, there was not much of. This was 2006-07. Focusrite was just writing their first online travel report. It wasn't out yet. And all we knew was there was a company called Make My Trip, which had just raised some money, and they were moving back to India from their US operations and building something big here. And within a few months that we started, there was Yatra, Travel Guru, Claytrip, everybody raising $5 to $10 million a piece. So we said that online travel is going to be big. If others think so, it must be the case. And what should we do? We thought that if we want to do something in online travel, let's look at the problem from our own perspective. Because we'd lived and worked in Europe for a while, there were so many LCCs in Europe, the whole airline market had exploded. And when we used to travel, the biggest frustration we had was we would go from one site to another, do the same search over and over again, open an airline site, open an online travel portal, compare 2 or 3 online travel portals, then go back to the airline site, sometimes book on the airline site, sometimes find a promotion code for the portal, try to find a discount code, coupon code, etc., and waste like 20 minutes just trying to save, like 20 euros. And we thought that in India, once all these portals are out, once they start growing big, and once the barriers to entry in this business become really low, consumers are going to face the same problems, right? So it's not something which India can avoid, having multiple options and wanting to search all of them. And this is why we took the bet on iXiGo. So that was the only market research we did, to be honest. And we launched the site in June 2007. So we just completed 5 years. One of the things we realized over time is that, and I think Amit made this point beautifully in the morning, is that the one big advantage startups have is speed. And speed manifests itself as iterations, right? So this is what our site looked like, when we launched. Just flights, right? So we said, this is our minimum viable product. We can search for flights on all the airline websites in India, that's all. Just the 7 or 8 airline websites that existed. And we launched this in June 2007. And the first day we launched this, so how did we launch this? So our home ADSL connection was 256 kbps. And we realized, we will launch this site and we will make some publicity, try to get it on the blogs. And to do that, we need at least a decent connection so that we can support some, people getting, because we were running the server that was serving www.ixigo.com from our apartment, from a box in our apartment on a DSL connection, right? Using DIN DNS. So we said, okay, let's upgrade the bandwidth. We got a 1 Mbps connection after a lot of brainstorming. Should we do it or not? And we launched it on that. And within 6 hours of launch, we had 2,000 people on the site, right? I don't know how or why. And later on, we discovered they were all coming from one IP. Apparently, a friend of ours in Microsoft India had mailed all his colleagues globally that there's a new travel site that has come up, right? So so we almost crashed that day, to be honest, right? But that was a good thing. That's the first mobile version we launched. I know it looks like the most crappy product in the world. But remember what Eric Rice said, right? If your first launch doesn't make you embarrassed, then you're launching too late, right? And then the site kept evolving, right? So we added hotels, trains, so the product team couldn't sit idle. There was some revenue already flowing in. Fortunately, some of the airlines saw a reason in working with us. Some of the hotel booking sites saw a reason in working with us. And we started monetizing the leads, and we started also getting some advertising revenue in. So by, I would say, end of 2007, early 2008, we were already, so end of 2007, we had already reached 100,000 uniques a month. And early 2008, we were at 125,000 uniques a month, right? So, and by then we had launched other products. The same thing, this philosophy doesn't die. So even today, 5 years later, when we were launching a new product, the trip planner, that's the first iteration. So obviously, hopefully you all agree that the new character looks much better than this one, more trustworthy at least. So this was really the first iteration. So this one reminds me of Ghasita Ram. I don't know how many of you read that. So, so this was the first iteration that we didn't expose to everybody here, but we exposed it to all our close friends like a month back, or 3 weeks back, 4 weeks back, right? And we got quick feedback that, no, this doesn't look like a trustworthy guy, you better change the character. So that's called customer development, right? That's called exposing whatever you want to build as early as possible, getting feedback and looping it in and launching it again and again, right? So we've been doing this from day one. We are doing this now in a more methodical fashion. But I honestly urge all of you who don't do it to really look at this, because as technology people, product people, all of us fall in the loop of, let's build this great product. Let's add this feature, let's do this. But does anybody really care? Is there anybody asking for it? Is there anybody, does that lead to an increase in traffic, increase in buzz about your product? You got to measure all those things. And this is what we finally came up with, right? So that's what we demoed this morning. And we feel like a startup all over again, and we've never sort of not felt like a startup in the last 5 years, but more so right now, where with the launch of a new product and being able to come to Plugged In again to demo it. And I think the philosophy of building a startup should remain completely focused on the fact that at any given point of time, I'm ready to pivot. I'm ready to throw away everything that I've done because it's not working, because the data shows it's not working, and I'm willing to do something else, right? So it's very important that all of you, whatever way you measure this, but use the measurement and the analytics to really take quick decisions, and sometimes these will be hard decisions. Let's kill this feature, let's kill this product, right? But if you don't take them, it'll kill your company. So you better take them. So let's talk a bit about our growth, because just to give you some background, we ran this company on our own money and on friends and family money till about early 2008. In that 1 year, or about 7-8 months post-launch, we talked to almost all the early stage investors or seed investors in the country. And it was a very frustrating experience for 2 reasons. The first one was that a lot of them were telling us, why are you not building an online travel agency? Right? So they were like, and how are you different from Make My Trip? This was the first question any VC would ask in any meeting, or any seed investor would ask. And then we would say, have you even looked at our website? I mean, if you use it once, you'll know why we are not a Make My Trip. But I think it was very difficult to get that point across, and I can't blame them for it. The second was, of course, the fact that early stage investment in that phase, in 2006, you still needed some amount of traction, you still needed some revenue flowing in before even seed investors came into your company. So I think that has changed tremendously in the last 5 years. That's good for all of you. But for us, that was a very challenging experience. And what happened in November 2007, I got a call from a guy in Singapore. His name is William Klipgen. He said, I saw a press release of your site on some blog. I used your product. It's a great product. You guys have built, what I think is one of the best online travel products in Asia. And then I asked him, so who are you, by the way? So he said, I was running kelku.com in Europe, and I sold it to Yahoo. And I want to have a conversation with you for investing in your company. I said, okay, give me some time. And then I went and did research, and I found out that this guy had actually sold a company to Yahoo for $500 million. He was sitting in Singapore. He was a seed investor. He had made just 3 investments in his life. All of them had made money for him. And so then he says, but by the way, if you want this money, or if you want us to invest, you should come down to Singapore. We'll have a conversation. If you can convince my partners, we'll invest in the company. This was November 2008. We had 1.5 lakh rupees in our company bank account. That was the only money we had. The flight ticket to Singapore was 40,000 rupees return. So we had a 3-hour-long debate among founders that should we go there? We were like, we've spent 6 months with all these seed investors in India, nothing happened. We had almost an all-nighter over beers that should we do this or not? And he's like, kar lete hain, let's see what happens, right? So I go there, we have this meeting, and it's a 3-hour-long meeting. I present to all the partners. They tell me to wait in the hotel lobby. They spend another 2 hours deliberating. The 5th hour from the time I met them, the guy comes down to the lobby and says, these are the standard terms we offer to companies. Are you okay with them? Because if you are, by the time you get back to India, you'll have a term sheet in your inbox, right? So that's the speed of angel investing, seed investing elsewhere in the world, right? So I'm still looking for an angel investor in India who will get there. Oops, sorry. I think we went too fast. We went too fast. So I want to tell you some secrets about growth. The number one secret is that the best way to grow is by keeping your users happy. If you keep your users happy, they'll tell other users about your product and you'll grow. It's a very simple equation. It sounds simple, but what you have to do is, if a customer writes to you in the middle of the night that he's not happy with your product, you respond to him within like 10 minutes and you write at the bottom that you're the CEO of the company, and this is the kind of response you get in return. That they're pleased and they'll tell others about it, and by the way, why are you not doing international flights, right? And then you loop it in back to your product team saying international flights top priority because now it's the 4th person who's telling us this, and you launch international flights after 6 months, right? So if you do that, trust me, this person still uses iXiGo today and she still writes to me, right? And these are the kind of people who I think will remain committed to your product, your user base, for the rest of their life, as long as you don't screw up, as long as you keep listening to them. So we've had phenomenal direct growth, phenomenal growth in repeat users, and that has been as a result of just listening to what people are telling us and just treating them like people, right? And just responding to them, saying that thanks a lot, we might have screwed up, we're sorry, but we are listening to you, we'll try to fix this, and hopefully you'll come back to see the results. The second thing is what happened in 2008. So after we raised our seed round, we did a couple of foolish things. The first foolish thing we did was we hired, so we were 5 people when we raised the seed round. We hired 15 people. We became a team size of 20 in 3 months or 2.5 months. The second thing we did was we started advertising on Google, right? And why were we doing it? I mean, the answer was everybody else is doing it, so we need to do it, right? What happened is that we started burning money, obviously, but in the meanwhile, one of the top VC firms in the world approached us and they said, we'll give you Series A money. We said, that sounds great, but we just raised the seed round, we don't need your money. They said, no, you take our term sheet, it's a great term sheet, $5 million for $8 million pre-money or something like that. And we were in a dilemma saying 3 months after seed round, why should we raise money, but they were like, take it, you'll need it. And finally we were like, okay, great name, good money, why should we not take it? So we signed this term sheet, we go 2 months due diligence, 3 months due diligence, we're going through lawyers, all the usual ruckus. And it's like 3rd week of July, and I get a call, I think it was early evening, and the managing director of the firm says, you know what, we can't do this deal anymore. And I'm like, what the, and what's going on? And the reason I'm saying that is because the day I signed my term sheet, the next week I'm on vacation. The second, that's the first vacation I took after starting iXiGo. And the second week after that, we are saying, tell you what, how much are we spending on Google? 10,000 a day. Okay, so let's spend 25,000 a day because we got $5 million coming in, right? So, so I'm left end of July. I'm left with like maybe 3 months of burn, and this guy tells me he can't do the deal anymore, and he doesn't give me a great reason for it. First week of August, Lehman Brothers collapses, and then you know why he wasn't doing it. And then you're left in deep shit because you've got like 2.5 months of burn in the bank, right? So we went through that situation. We did an all hands meet. We told everyone we're in deep shit. We have 2 options. We fire half the team, or you give me a better option. That's the second option. So the second option, you won't believe this, but one of the youngest developers and brightest guys in my team, the guy stands up and says, Alok, we can work for iXiGo for 1 year without money. I'm like, are you crazy? He's like, no, I can do it. I don't know about the others. So, and then this was like a snowball effect, right? I mean, one junior guy in your team saying he can work without salary for you for a year. And then everybody else says, yeah, we can all do that. I'm like, no, nobody is working without salary. Only founders work without salary at iXiGo, right? So, so then we said, okay, we found a compromise. For 7 months, everybody at iXiGo was on half their payroll. And none of those people left us for even a year after that. And that's where the graph begins, September 2008. All those people stayed. So the first guy from that team left us in October 2010, and look where our traffic was. They kept on launching products. We kept on marketing word of mouth. We went from 200,000 visitors a month to almost 1 million visitors a month. In that year of recession, so-called recession, where people were not growing, we grew like 3x in that year. And the last month there, April 2010 was our first profitable month. And this was just with a seed round. What are we doing today? I mean, today we are still trying to continue that. We're doing more social. We have a page called iXiGo on Facebook. We don't have millions of followers like a lot of e-commerce companies out there, but we have phenomenal engagement. We have more people talking about this brand than any other online brand in this country. And you can go and check the stats on that. We had 15,000 people talking about us yesterday. And we have like 1,000 likes and 1,000 shares on a lot of posts that we do today. And I think the only reason is that if this community likes you, if you feed them the right content, if you give them what they're looking for, it's a positive reinforcement cycle. And if you're able to sustain that over time and you don't screw up, it will not go away. It will keep on building, right? So that's the only thing we kept doing. Finally, very importantly, PR is a very important part of how you grow and succeed, right? So hats off to people like Plugged In and a lot of the other blogs out there who actually supported us, who have always, supported innovation and talked about it. And a lot of this actually fuels into that positive reinforcement cycle where, there are people talking about you, there are people saying this thing works, and that leads to even more people doing that, right? I think the next point is the most important one. It's about culture. What we have realized after making a lot of mistakes, in the first few years of our existence, is if there is only one thing you had to defend, and name anything else, valuation, revenue, profitability, team, etc. The only thing you have to defend is culture, right? If the culture is right, and obviously culture, the team is an integral part of it. If you're hiring the right people, if they're actually reinforcing that culture with their actions, if your culture is right, everything else works out. Your product will be awesome, people will be happy, people won't think of it as work, they'll think of it as play, and they will be like twice as productive as companies where you say that you have to come in at 9 and leave at 7 and do this and do that, right? Because we give them a lot of flexibility and we make sure that the workplace is a fun place, right? So, and we've been doing this for the last 3 years once we realized the importance of this, and that has had phenomenal results. So I would strongly encourage that don't Don't let the workplace be an ordinary workplace. Turn it into an extraordinary workplace. Make people proud about working for you, no matter how small a startup you are. And you don't need to spend a lot of money to do this. I mean, getting stuff painted on your wall, how much does that cost, right? Those are the two guys who presented this morning, by the way. They play a lot of table tennis. And we do hackathons, this is something more recent, but Amit mentioned it as well. So there's a lot of things you can pick up from the Valley. The culture in the Valley has been built on a few things, and hackathons is one of them, right? So, get your developers to do all-nighters, get basically some sort of event where you have cross-functional teams coming together and building something all night or all day long and having like a nice competition at the end. Whoever does the best gets something. So I think just having that fun element and people not coming in just to do what they were told to do, but just having one day where nobody works but only does a hackathon, that can do cool things to you. And we've seen this happening. We are going to do our second one very soon. But the first one has been phenomenal. We're going to do a lot more of these going forward. Thought I'll share this. And the last point that I have, the fifth one, is that a lot of us actually fall in the trap of not aiming high enough. So if your aim is really high, even if you fail it, you will reach at a point where you'll still be proud of. If your aim is really low, even if you reach there, you'll realize that this is a local maxima. This is not where I was set out to reach, right? And we make this mistake again that we don't have the resources, we don't have the funding, we don't have the team, we don't have the product. How will we get there? I don't know whether you'll get there or not, but at least you should hope to get there, right? You should have that dream, and don't let these current situations, somehow magically situations will work out if you just pursue your dream, with the ambition and the passion that you need to have. At least that happened to me, and I'm hoping it happens to everyone who does that. But it's just that things come together when you least expect them to. And for 2 years, we tried to raise money after the downturn, 2009-10. We couldn't raise Series A. In 2011, VC interest started bouncing back. They were approaching us instead of us approaching them, right? And that time we didn't need money. We were profitable. We were making money. And that's the time when VCs chase you, right? So it's always, remember that this equation of you thinking that these are my resources and this is where I can get to with my resources, this is not the equation for an entrepreneur. This is the equation for somebody who does not know how to take risk, right? The equation for you is, I have these resources, but I can aim for that, right? And that's why I'm an entrepreneur. That's why I can take the risk. I can bet my whole life for it. So it reminds me of a phrase from the Matrix which says there is no spoon. So, and this brings a very important point. A lot of people give you advice. Advice is the, I think, freest thing in the world. Everybody wants to give it, right? But I think you have to be very, very careful about who you take advice from and what sort of advice makes sense or not. Because there are no right or wrong answers. A lot of advice that we got from so-called people who were good advisors, was not great advice. And some other people, actually gave us, but at the end, it's your call as an entrepreneur whose advice you take, whose you don't. But there are no defined answers. There are no, and every day, something happens which changes the game, right? So Facebook came, it changed the game. Twitter came, it changed the game, right? Every day there's something new which will redefine, reset the rules. What you should think about is how can you be the person who does that, right? Not going by all the books and volumes that have been written and read in the last 20 years. Can you redefine the rules? And that's what you need to aim for. But we get defined by our own mental limitations of what we can do and what we cannot do. I wanted to show a picture here which will disprove that. That's my 65-year-old dad. We went to Agra in November. It was my anniversary, actually. We went together with my mom and dad. My dad sees these Japanese tourists, jumping and taking photographs, and he says, I want to do this. I said, are you crazy? You're 65, sometimes you're not even able to run or walk or whatever, right? So he says, no, I want to do it. And he did it. And I tried this, I couldn't do it. I'll not show you that photograph. I'll be very embarrassed. But this only proves one thing. You can do anything and everything. It's all about just not putting yourself into that mental frame of mind or box which everybody sort of does all the time, right? And you will realize that if you really want to do it, the world will come together to make it happen, right? But half of us don't realize that. They don't have that passion, energy, commitment to their idea. But for all of you, I'm just leaving you with the last word of advice, that remain wedded to your idea, but at the same time, take that iterative process, basically keep improving your idea with whatever inputs you think make sense, and the users' inputs are the most important ones. All these advisors, investors, etc. Okay, some of them are in the room, so I shouldn't say. I'll say take their advice with a pinch of salt, but do what your users tell you is right? Because it's your users who are actually going to help you grow, right? So I think that's the last point I want to leave you with. There's no limit to ambition. There's no limit to where you all can get to. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Anyone. Okay? Thanks.